Hello, I'm Acha,
And I'm Garrett.
and welcome to the Late Night Guild Wars 2 Firebrand, which is the new Elite spec for Guardians. It was an interesting Elite spec, I have to say, but let's have our dear friend Garrett to tell us more details about it.
Yeah, the Firebrand is, I gotta say, it's probably one of my most anticipated ones when it comes to Elite specs because it just seems like it's a powerhouse, and it does feel like a powerhouse. So when you look at the Firebrand, the first thing you'll notice is that this thing has a lot of burning. It dishes out a lot of burning. It gives its allies the ability to dish out a lot of burning. And the Guardian already had a lot of burning traits and burning related damage increases. It has a burning trait that increases the damage of burning, and I think with the Firebrand it'll even have one that increases condition duration. And it gets a lot of condition damage just by having quickness applied to it. And to top it all off, it even has access to its own quickness. The thing with the Firebrand that's very interesting is that it can apply on itself so much quickness that it can actually just be its very own quickness battery, completely separated from the Chronomancer right now. So as it would stand, if you were to go in, let's say, a raid, you would need a Chronomancer to keep up quickness on you so that you can deal the amount of damage that is expected of everybody to deal. But the Firebrand can actually completely skip the Chronomancer because it does it seamlessly by itself. It just keeps on popping more and more quickness. The thing is, I don't think the Firebrand will actually be a new quickness battery. I think people will look at it and realize this thing works best if I just fully spec it into DPS. Like I said, we already have the Chrono. The Chrono already adds alacrity. There's no point in creating, two different things that do the same thing and take away from the damage of one class just because it can do another silly thing next to it when we've already got a decent supply of quickness coming in. On that note, I do think that it needs to be a bit toned down on the burning side of things. If you just put on, this is at least for the PvP side of things, if you just turn on the first tome, or F1, I don't remember what all of them are called. I think this one's the Tome of Courage. If you turn it on and you just use skill 1, you essentially stack a lot of burning, enough to kill somebody in just a few hits. It's almost ridiculous. Well, no, it is ridiculous, actually. So the thing is, these tomes, the way they work is they have pages. They're kind of like engineer kits. And, well, if you don't know what engineer kits are, it's basically they completely cover your first 5 skills on your bar. So normally you'd have 10 skills. When you turn on the tome, the first 5 skills are covered by that tome skills. And each skill consumes a page. You have a total of 5 pages, a total of 5 skills. You can essentially do all the skills once, and then the tome disappears. There's a trait that increases the number of pages to 8. So you get another 3 pages, you get another, 3 skills. And you can already see that there's a lot of different ways to combo with this. There's of course the damage tome, which I've been talking about, but it doesn't come with just one tome. It comes with 3, and there's a support tome, one that heals, grants. I think it also grants protection, and it grants a lot of regen. Basically, you can have your very own separate healer right here. It cleanses conditions, it heals people. It's very, very nice. And then there's the final tome, and this one's more of a support oriented. It has some reflections, I believe. This is the one, I'll be honest, this is the one I did not look that much into. I looked once at like the animations and sort of read through what the skills do, but I don't really see this one being used all that much. If it's going to be used, it's probably going to be used to keep a point secure for a few seconds. The thing is, with all these tomes, the cooldown of each of them is kind of what keeps you from just going berserk with them, because once you've activated the tome, you gotta wait a little before you can activate it again and use those skills again, because those skills are very, very powerful. So, of course, when you look at things like the support tome, you might be thinking, oh, so the Guardian can finally be a healer. Maybe you've always wanted to be a healer as a Guardian. And to some degree you would be right, but you'd have to find a way to close in the gaps, because you won't have your tome always equipped. Compared to, let's say, the Druid, who is the current healing class, the Druid can always just recharge their celestial energy, and they heal with that celestial energy. But when it comes to the Guardian, it won't have that. You have basically a wall before you, which is the cooldown, and unless that wall goes away, which it can only do in time, and with alacrity, yeah, you're going to find a very hard time healing. But there's a chance that it might be used that way in PvP, as a support for PvP. Because in PvP, you don't need to constantly heal. You just need to be able to heal while your team is killing the enemy team, right? While you get the kills, while you clear the point. So it may find its place somewhere in PvP, presuming it's good enough, presuming it can cleanse conditions fast enough, and it can heal well enough. So it's sort of, the Firebrand is in an interesting spot. It's kind of like, it's a middle ground, right? It has both, well, not both. It has damage, it has healing, it has support of some sort. The mantras themselves, which are the skills that the Firebrand gets, they are also very support oriented. They're not very offensive. Most of them, I'd say, aren't offensive at all. I think there's like 2 of them that grant you. One of them grants you some might, and the other one burns your enemy. And the way that you use them is even more interesting now with Path of Fire, because you get charges, and those charges can they have their own cooldown and they can reset. So you don't have, normally with a mantra, you'd have to constantly recast it, and it has a very long cast time. But now you don't actually have to do that. It just does it by itself. It's just you can't use all your charges, because once you've used all your charges, that's it. Your mantra's gone, and you have to recast it if you want it again. As opposed to the Dragon Hunter, it's very, very hard to really pinpoint how the Firebrand will do against the Dragon Hunter. The Dragon Hunter right now is in a very good position. It deals quite a lot of damage, and it does so with very little effort. And that's the thing that it has to beat. Little effort, a lot of damage. It's hard to manage that one, mostly because when you have something like the Dragon Hunter literally just needs to put down a few things. And you as a Firebrand, if you have to do a very, very complex rotation, well, what's the point of getting your new armor, a new armor set, new runes, better weapons, just to do that extra bit of damage? So unless this is going to be over-the-top damage, I don't really see the Dragon Hunter being on its way out. I'd say if you like the Dragon Hunter, you're probably still going to see it well into Path of Fire's life. Unless, of course, they change something, at which point it might not be there. And again, all of this is considering raids, not necessarily everything else, because even in Fractals, the Dragon Hunter is pretty powerful right now. So the question is, can the Firebrand apply enough burning, and can it sustain its burning without the constant use of the tome, not without the without fully not using the tome? Definitely you use the tome, but is the tome your burst? how good is it? How bad is it when you don't have it? These are the questions for the Firebrand, and those are all things that remain to be answered as soon as we get to play a bit with it in PvE. And I think the Firebrand will see a lot of use in PvE. I do think that, because conditions are very powerful right now. But I don't think it will dethrone the Dragon Hunter completely. There will still be encounters where the Dragon Hunter will be better. I also have to take into consideration, I also have to point out the fact that I was using basically glass cannon setup to do that. So you won't be doing that if you're trying to be careful. If you add that one bit of toughness, that one bit of vitality to your build, you will be missing out on some of that damage. And again, people, they generally react far faster. So you're a Firebrand, you go in there, you spam your first skill, it puts a ton of burning, right? In comes the other Firebrand, he spams his healing and condi cleansing skills. You're done. You're not doing anything. So, it's a question of how the people will find, where the people will find use for what the Firebrand provides. And yeah, in a way, in World vs. World specifically, I do think it's going to be a jack of all trades. But when it comes to, let's say, PvP and PvE, I think it's going to have to find a more secure spot if it wants to do anything. Otherwise, if these elite specs are ever brought down to the same level as the current elite specs are, the Firebrand is going to probably be below. If they're not careful, of course. Below the Dragon Hunter.
Cool. Well, that's all we have to say for the Firebrand. Thank you for joining us again in this show. We'll see you on the next episode for the next Elite Spec. Bye bye.
Yeah. See you, everyone.